Hamas has handed over the bodies of 4 Israeli hostages in exchange for Israel releasing more than 600 Palestinian prisoners. An Israeli official says the militants returned the bodies to Red Cross officials in a private ceremony rather than presenting the caskets publicly, which Israel had called humiliating, leading it to delay last weekend's prisoner release. Israel will now release 625 Palestinian prisoners. This is the final exchange of phase 1 of the Gaza ceasefire deal. So far, 25 hostages have been released alive. And let's go over to journalist Sami Sockol for more from Jerusalem. What more can you tell us about the returning of the bodies?
Yes, well, the receiving of the bodies by the Red Cross took place in the area of Khan Yunis in the south of the Gaza Strip. And from there, these bodies that were handed over without any ceremony. We haven't seen footage of this handover, contrary to the previous times. And the bodies were taken to a meeting point with the Israeli military. We know that at the place there was a special checking, forensic checking, to actually confirm that these 4 bodies do belong to Israelis, so as not to have a similar mistake like we saw a week ago. And at the same time, there has been the beginning of the release of Palestinian prisoners, namely from Ofer prison in the West Bank, in Bitunia. Hundreds of Palestinians, most of them were arrested in the Gaza Strip following the beginning of the fighting during the war. But about a group of 100 were prisoners who have been for long sentences, including life sentences. And these are the prisoners that on Saturday night were on the buses, and they thought that they were going out to their freedom when the government of Israel suddenly decided that they would actually go back to their prison cells. Wow. And there has been this ongoing crisis, which we have seen has been resolved for the moment.
Sami, you say for the moment, phase 1 of this ceasefire deal is meant to end Saturday. What then?
Well, according to the agreement signed between the parties, the Israelis are supposed to start the withdrawal from the Philadelphia corridor. This is the area that lies between the Gaza Strip and Egypt. And this is supposed to take place beginning on Saturday until the 50th day of the agreement, which means into the following week. And at the same time, the parties already should have had begun the negotiation for phase 2. So far, the Israeli government has not instructed its delegation to go to Qatar for these talks. So we're still facing a crisis.
Interesting insights there from Sami Sockol. Thank you very much. Well, thousands of mourners turned out in Israel for the funeral of a mother and her 2 children. Their bodies released by Hamas last week. Shiri Bibas and her sons, Kfir and Ariel, were kidnapped on October 7th, 2023.
Paying their respects to a young family torn apart by the October 7th terror attacks. Tens of thousands of Israelis lined the route of the funeral procession.
Our heart, the people of Israel's heart, is shattered. We were waiting for a different end. We were hoping. And we're feeling that these pure souls were hurt.
Many more were watching from across the country, like here in Tel Aviv.
And this family represents all the families that were killed on the 7th of October, all the very young families with very young children who were brutally murdered.
Shiri Bibas, 9-month-old Kfir and 4-year-old Ariel were taken hostage by militants on October 7th. Their bodies were released by Hamas last week as part of the ceasefire deal. Israel and Hamas have blamed each other for their deaths in captivity. Yarden Bibas, who was captured separately and released this month, said farewell to his wife and children as they were laid to rest close to the kibbutz they had called home.
Shiri, please watch over me. Protect me from bad decisions. Protect me from myself. Guard me so I don't sink into darkness.
The Bibas family were handed over by Hamas under the first phase of its ceasefire agreement with Israel. The militant group has already freed 25 living hostages. Israel has released hundreds of Palestinian prisoners in exchange. The truce deal has also allowed desperately needed aid to flow into the Gaza Strip, where health authorities estimate more than 48,000 Palestinians were killed in 15 months of war. The first phase of the ceasefire is due to end on Saturday, but talks on the second phase, that's meant to see the return of all remaining hostages, as well as a permanent end to the war, still haven't begun.